1 month down in the fantasy basketball season, and we are on to week 5. We are previewing all the games and targeting all these streaming players for this week. Let's go!
Jordan open. Chicago with the lead. Bryant to Shaq.
Not a game. We talking about practice.
LeBron James with no regard for human life. Anything's possible.
Back out to Allen. His three-pointer. Bang! Curry for three. Wow! Unbelievable. Making it rain in New York. We the North are now we the champions.
Not the destination, it's the journey. Mamba out.
G'day and welcome to the Ball Boys Fantasy Basketball Podcast. I am your host, Mitch Casey, and you can find me on Twitter at Ball Boys Fantasy, and we are previewing Week 5 in the NBA calendar and in our fantasy basketball calendars. And Week 5 comes with it obviously the public holiday for Thanksgiving this week, and it brings also with it a very funky NBA schedule. So we're going to be breaking down what it means for our fantasy basketball squads, where we can get the most advantage, and where we can look to beat our opponent in head-to-head, both category and points leagues. We're going to go through that today. Today, we're going to be reviewing that. Also, later on today, by the time, or maybe tomorrow, by the time you're listening to this, I will be also reviewing my week over in the Industry Pickup League. So, a lot of positive feedback on that one there, guys. Views were down, but the people who did watch it seemed to enjoy it. So, I'll keep putting it out there, guys. And then we're also going to, later in the week, go through some more buy low and sell high players over the last couple of weeks. And also, as we will find out in a second, reviewing Wednesday's huge slate of games. So we're going to get stuck into it now, starting with the weekly breakdown for the games. So this week, like we said, the Thanksgiving week, so there's a very funky schedule. So we have on Monday 8 games, on Tuesday 7 games, and then on Wednesday the return of the monster 14-game day. So every team in the NBA, except for the New York Knicks and the Detroit Pistons, are playing on Wednesday night. So that's going to mean a very big recap show, but lots of information for us to take away from that day as well. Thursday, no games at all. Friday, there is 10 games. Saturday, 6, and Sunday, 8. So straight away, when we look at this breakdown for the week 5, essentially, it tells me straight off the bat, and please stay tuned and watching this video, but streaming in this week is going to be a lot less useful, and we're not going to have to be as strategic to get the most out of this week, because there is just no real way to get the most value out of streaming this week, depending on your team and your league setup, because you're not going to be able to stream on Wednesday, guarantee it. You're not going to be able to stream on Thursday because obviously there's no games on. You might be able to stream on Friday, or you might not, depending on your league. Usually for quality games, I use the 10 game as the cutoff, but sometimes it might be different. So we are really looking at Monday, Tuesday, Saturday, and Sunday. That leaves us with 4 days of streaming. Most leagues have a 4 weekly ad limit. Therefore, in terms of back-to-backs and things like that, we don't really have to worry about that this week. So in today's segment, where I would normally go through back-to-backs, I've kind of scrapped it because it's not really important this week, because basically you're going to be adding the best streaming target every single day on Monday, Tuesday, Saturday, and Sunday to get your 4 ads in. If you wanted to, you could attack. There is a couple teams that have a back-to-back on the Saturday and Sunday to leave yourself at least 1 ad for the week for a more season-long, use of your ad and still get your 4 games in. But you're not going to be able to get 6 games played out of the 1 streamer spot this week. You're only going to get really the maximum of 4, maybe 5, if you have an ability to stream on the Friday. So yeah, in terms of streaming power this week, it's much less than it was, say, for example, last week or this current week as of recording, just because of the fact that they have the Wednesday 14 and the Thursday 0, which was the same, I think, a couple of weeks ago. So essentially, when we're talking about streaming, we want to be looking at the best player available in every single league, in every single day that you are able to. So that's what we're going to be focusing our attention on when it comes to the streaming targets later in the podcast. Let's go now on to the 2-game weeks. There are 3 teams that have a 2-game week this week: the Dallas Mavericks, the Detroit Pistons, and the OKC Thunder. Couple of big names in a few of these teams here. So obviously the Dallas Mavericks, you've got Luka and Kyrie Irving. Both are obviously guys that are top 10 players in fantasy basketball or top 15 players in fantasy basketball. Detroit, there's no one really huge on that side of things. OKC, you've got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and you could also throw in Chet Holmgren, who put up a massive game today. So when it comes to weekly changes leagues, those 4 players are probably the only players that I would be saying that are starts in that format. If you're in a standard 12-team league, obviously this changes. For example, in the Ball Boys Championship 30 league, the bar goes down a little bit because you're, instead of putting someone on your starting lineup that's sort of a top 150 value, maybe putting someone who's top 200 or top 250. So the difference is a little bit depending on your league size. But for standard 12-team leagues where you're rostering about 160-ish players, then in terms of starting, I would probably be of these teams starting Luka, Kyrie, Chet, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I think those 4 players are starts. That means that I don't think we need to be starting, obviously, a Derek Lively, Tim Hardaway Jr., who else is there in there? Grant Williams or anything like that. I don't think we need to be starting Cade Cunningham. I don't think we need to be starting Jalen Duren, who's in and out of lineups anyway. Asar Thompson, I don't think we're starting. Killian Hayes, anyone really from Detroit, I don't think is worth or starting this week with the 2 games. And on OKC, Jalen Williams, I don't think is necessarily a start. Josh Giddey, I don't think you have to start as well. So a bunch of players in there that are mid-round value, I think are better served going onto your bench because you've only got 2 games of them, and you're probably better served to get 3 or 4 games from maybe a worse per game player than or play those guys 2 games for the week. So for weekly changes leagues, that does have a decent amount of impact on your fantasy success this week. Those 4 players, Chet, SGA, Luka, and Kyrie, are the only ones that I would probably start out of those teams for this week. That means we have 12 games of teams that are playing 3 games this week. Brooklyn, Charlotte, Golden State, Houston, Indiana, the Lakers, New York, Philadelphia, Portland Trailblazers, Sacramento, and Utah. And then the majority of teams are playing 4 games. So 15, half the league is playing 4 games. I wish they were playing 15 games. But Atlanta, Boston, Chicago, Cleveland, Denver, the Clippers, Miami, Milwaukee, Minnesota, New Orleans, Orlando, Phoenix, San Antonio, Toronto, and Washington all play 4 games this week. So again, just highlighting the difference between half the league playing 4 games and those 3 teams playing 2 games this week. The majority of other teams are going to have double the amount of volume that those teams will, so it just makes it really hard to compete if you've only got the 2 games and you are a mid-round player. So that, again, just further highlights the fact that you can bench those guys and play, one of the guys from this group of teams and get better value in the total week if you're in a weekly changes leagues. Let's move on into the quality games. Now, again, the quality games, don't think it really matters as much this week, but essentially we've got 2 teams that have 3 quality games this week, Atlanta and Cleveland. In terms of streamers, Cleveland, there's really no one of value. Most teams have like a Karis LeVert. He's probably the only one that may be available in your league for Cleveland, but he's been playing well enough that I think he's been picked up in most situations out there. Max Strus is probably not available in a lot of leagues as well. So you're sort of left with not too many options in terms of streaming for those teams for the most part. But for Atlanta, there's a few options. We've got players like Sadiq Bey. We've got players like DeAndre Hunter. In points leagues, if Onyeka Okongwu is available, if he's available in a category league, you go and add him immediately, and you don't think of him as a streamer. You just add him because he's a top 100 player. And I'm blanking on someone else. I can't remember who I was going to say. Oh, maybe Bogdan Bogdanovic if he's available, although he probably should be picked up anyway. I think all those kind of players you can definitely add and get some good value. They do have the back-to-back on the Saturday and Sunday at the end of the week. So they play 1 game at the start. I think it's a Monday. And then they have the high-volume Wednesday. And then they've got the 2 games at the back. So if you wanted to target them as a late weekend back-to-back on that Saturday and Sunday, have 2 streamers on the Monday and Tuesday, add them late for the Saturday and Sunday, and then you've also got another ad up your sleeve. So Atlanta is someone that we need to consider. Cleveland has the same thing, but again, less options. They play the Tuesday and then the back-to-back on Saturday and Sunday. So those teams are worth highlighting for that back-to-back at the end, which corresponds to them having good quality games. That's really the only scenario where I see you getting you could probably get 5 games played for 4 ads if you can stream on that Friday, or you can get 4 games for 3 ads if you can't stream on that Friday, and then you've got an extra ad left over to use for season-long pickups or something like that. Say someone drops someone who's you think is going to be really valuable, or you want to go ahead and add Bilal Koulibaly and ride him out and stash him a little bit this week because, again, it's a bit harder to stream. So I do think in a week like this where streaming is not as effective, going for those kind of stashy players is easier to hold them on your team as well. So maybe it is someone like a Xavier Tillman who I've picked up in industry pickup because I'm just having a look and see how he returns back and if he can win back that starting role over a Bismack Biyombo, or if it's a Bilal Koulibaly or someone else that you've got your eye on as a potential guy who could have value down the line, but not a whole lot of value right now. So I do think it is more, you have a greater ability to do that on a week like this because there are a few days where they're not going to be hurting you by being out there because there's such high volume games. The worst, there's probably, I think there is more teams than this, but I do just want to highlight that Dallas and OKC, we mentioned that they have 2 games this week, and only one of them is on the quality game. So they do play the Wednesday, which Detroit don't. So Detroit, even though they have 2 games this week, both of them are what we call quality games versus Dallas and OKC. Only one of them is on a quality game. So really reduces the impact of those guys when it comes to the value they're going to provide your team this week. So we're going to try and keep it nice and short and sweet because I really do think that the streaming portion of this week is going to be muted a fair bit. It's not going to be won this week, I think, by streaming. It's going to be won by decisions and start to sit and also just your main guys putting up good numbers. But if we're talking about fantasy points leagues, these guys, I think, again, a lot of these players play 4 games this week. So just trying to prioritize players that I think are available in a number of leagues out there that you can go and add. And I think they're going to have really good production this week. And they can help you win. A lot of these guys play on different days. So what I would suggest is just looking at each day, the Monday, who was the best player that you think is going to play that day, add them. Tuesday, same thing. If there's no back-to-backs Monday to Tuesday, so the player you add on Monday, you then probably drop them again, get someone in on Tuesday. And then the next one there is the Friday. That's a question mark. Are you able to stream on Friday or not? If you are, add someone else, and then add a player who has the back-to-back on the Atlanta Hawks side. Get them in for the Saturday and Sunday. If you can't stream on that day, you just add someone who's the best player on Saturday, and then someone who's the best player on Sunday. There's your 4 ads. You've got the best player streaming in each of those days, and that is how we're going to attack this week. But just to give you guys some names, this is not an exhaustive list. There are obviously more players available, but I don't know who exactly is going to be in your league, so I've tried to select some players that are available across the board for the most part. I would say of your league, at least one of these players should be available across, unless you're in a deep 16, 18 plus league, they might not be available. But for 10s, 12s, and 14s, I think at least one of these guys should be available. So my favorite fantasy points players for this week that are available: Dyson Daniels, really love what he's doing. The rebounds, assists, steals, a little bit of a points boost there. He doesn't turn the ball over a whole bunch as well. He is someone that I really like this week for points leagues. Kobe White had a good game today. Starting point guard, 30 minutes, has the green light. I think he is worth streaming in for fantasy points leagues. Reggie Jackson's got another week playing starting point guard with no Jamal Murray. He's a good player. Sadiq Bey, you've got that weekend back-to-back at the end there, plus he plays early on the Monday, so you can have a look at him. When he gets hot, he can fill it up. Rebounds okay as well, contributing to the fantasy points. Cole Anthony gets buckets, man. That's what he does. He gets to the free throw line a lot, gets a lot of points there, some assists as well. They have a friendly schedule. Onyeka Okongwu as well. Not normally a big fantasy points league player, but again, every now and again, if Clint Capella's in foul trouble or he just plays really well, can provide a really decent scoring in fantasy points leagues. And you do have, of course, that Saturday, Sunday back-to-back. And Eric Gordon, no Bradley Beal for this week. He's being reevaluated in about 2.5 weeks. So we can feel confident that Eric Gordon is going to be getting a decent amount of run there, even with Booker and Durant there. He is still basically their third guy when it comes to offense, and I think he is someone that you can definitely consider and is widely available. Talking about category leagues now, and in category leagues, the points category, these players are ones that I think you can target. Saddiq Bey, as we mentioned, DeAndre Hunter, who doesn't do anything else, but he does score and can score, in 3 quality games, he can maybe give you 50 to 60 points, 45 to 60 points, I'll say. And that can be definitely useful. He won't do much else, but he can score. Reggie Jackson, again, when you've got the 30-plus minutes a night, he is someone that you can definitely consider. Eric Gordon, as we mentioned, and Cole Anthony. So a few familiar names on there as well, with DeAndre Hunter, the extra addition. He wasn't in the fantasy point streamers because he doesn't do much else to contribute to fantasy point scoring, but he does score points for the category. Let's talk about threes streamers. And again, not an exhaustive list. There's probably more guys in here, but these are the best. And I think a lot of these guys can give you quite a decent volume of threes, and on any given day can really pop off. Jordan Hawkins leads the list. Kobe White, Saddiq Bey, Grayson Allen, obviously, has had some big games. And for the Phoenix Suns, again, still no Bradley Beal, so he'll still get some decent run. Malik Beasley can pop off for 8 threes and 30 points, as we've seen. And Eric Gordon as well, an underrated 3-point volume streamer as well for that team. Now, Jordan Hawkins got the start, I think, in today's game because there was no Zion Williamson. So he might be moving back to the bench, but he's still going to be a heavy part of their rotation, and I still believe that they do need the spacing that he provides. So he still gets a decent amount of minutes, and we've seen him have the ability to get hot. So even if he's coming off the bench, I do think he is at least worthy of consideration for streamers. If he's off the bench, less enticing than maybe some of the other names on this list, but still someone that you should at least consider. If we talk about some rebounds now, a few big guys here. Goga Bitadze, Mo Wagner, the 2 Orlando guys. They've been great streamers the entire time that Wendell Carter Jr. is out. Losing some minutes to someone like a Jonathan Isaac, who we'll touch about later, but still able to give you those solid rebound numbers. Drew Eubanks, again, sometimes he outplays someone like Yusuf Nurkic, I'm blanking. And then Dyson Daniels as well. Point guard, eligible player that can give you rebounds. Not super common, but he can do that. He can give you 6 to 7 rebounds a game, playing decent minutes at the moment, and is just a unique kind of skill set when it comes to his fantasy value. He will appear in a few more category targets. The next one here is assists. Reggie Jackson, again, starting point guard. Dyson Daniels, who was on the rebounds, now he's on the assists. Alex Caruso, who I believe in most 12-team leagues needs to be added. He started today. He went to the locker room, came back. He seems to be doing that most games these days. So just keep an eye on the injury report and if he's going to miss any time. But if he's there, it seems like they're wanting him to play. It is seeming like he's their 5th guy. And even with DeMar DeRozan back into the lineup today, it was Levine, it was White, it was Caruso, DeRozan, and it was Vucevic. Those are the 5 players that are playing the most amount of minutes. And if Alex Caruso is playing mid-20s, high 20s in minutes, he's a guy that you want on your team. But he can at least give you assist streams, and he can give you defensive stats as well, which we will touch on in a second. Kobe White, starting point guard, 30-plus minutes, sign me up. Again, be aware of your percentages, and he can be a little bit up and down, but I still think he's at least worthy of a stream target, and same with Kyle Lowry, but he is at the bottom of the list because he has the least amount of confidence from me, but he still is at least worth a look for assist streams. Let's talk about the steals streamers, and my boy Caruso leads the way here again, and the 3rd appearance for Dyson Daniels. So you can see that I do like Dyson Daniels this week for rebounds, assists, and steals, a unique set of combination there. Cam Reddish has been getting steals a lot for the Lakers. There's also the slight upside. LeBron James is basically listed questionable for the last 3 games. It feels like he's just going to be listed questionable for the rest of the season. But if for whatever reason LeBron is out, then he has a big boost also in his other categories. But he is, at the moment, getting a lot of steals and getting in passing lanes for the Lakers. So he's a good steal streamer. And Jonathan Isaac is definitely someone we need to keep an eye on because he is starting to trend up in terms of his minutes. I think he cracked 20 minutes in his last game. He's playing and closing a lot of games for the Orlando Magic as their center. And when he plays, he is one of the best per-minute producers in those defensive stats, steals and blocks. He can rack them up extremely, extremely quickly. So he doesn't need a high level of minutes. He has the potential to come in and in any given night give you 4 steals and 3 blocks, or 3 steals and 5 blocks. It can be huge on any given night. Now, it might be 1-1. It might be 2-1, it might be anything, but he does have that really high upside, even in limited minutes for steals. The next category is the blocks, and Jonathan Isaac leads the charge again here. Alex Caruso, another guard. He's been getting a lot of blocks recently, and he can continue doing that. That is one of his specialties as a guard. He is just a defensive menace, and so if you are looking for a guard-eligible player that can give you blocks as well as assists and steals, which he's appeared in these streaming targets, like I said, I think he's a 12-team league ad anyway, but at least that, and in a 10-team league, you can stream him for those categories. Goga Badatse, he was on the rebounds, also here for the blocks. Bit up and down for him, but I still think that he is someone you can definitely consider. Even in sort of 20, 22 minutes a night, he can give you some decent blocks. And Drew Eubanks, the lowest minutes projection from me of all of these players, but probably one of the higher block rates in that smaller game time. So even in sort of 16 to 18 minutes, he can give you maybe a couple of blocks in those games as well. So he is someone that we should at least consider. And if the upside of Nurkic gets to foul trouble or something like that, he can go off and have a big game. Last couple here, the percentages. We've got a few big guys here. Goga Badatse, who we've mentioned. Nick Richards, which we haven't. He is someone that scores efficiently and scores a little bit of a higher volume than some of these other players, but still finishes well at the rim. So he is someone that you can definitely consider for field goal percentage. Mo Wagner has had a few big games where he's gone off for 70% field goals on decent amount of attempts. So he's someone you can definitely consider, as is Drew Eubanks, who's a high finisher, but albeit on low volume attempts. Like I said before, the field goal and free throw percentage are probably the hardest two categories to influence with your streaming targets. It's more so just identifying players that are not going to hurt you from the field goal percentage in the most cases. But if you do want to, if that was the only category that you're looking at, I think these guys are the best ones to target. A lot of these guys do appear in the other categories, so they kind of double up a little bit, but like we said, it's the hardest, and this next one, the free throw percentage, is probably the hardest to influence. But we do have a couple of options in Cole Anthony, Malik Monk, Grayson Allen, and Sadiq Bey, all good free throw percentage shooters. They are all playing a decent amount of minutes at the moment as well. So you're at least semi-confident that they're going to get to the line enough to make that impact on your free throw percentage for the entire week. And they all play a decent volume of games this week. So those are some good targets for you guys to get some of your categories in and win your week and matchup this week. Oh, excuse me, but that will do it for us today, guys. Remember, those targets are not an exhaustive list, but just some names that for each of those categories, if they are available on your waiver wire, they should at least come under consideration for you. But like we said at the top of this show, not going to be the most stream-friendly week, so go in each day, target those best players. Remember, try and get ahead of your opponent and think about them and what are the targets of the categories that are going to be close in your matchup. If you want an example of this, you can check out my most recent video going through my industry pickup team. I'm going to be doing another one of those tomorrow. I think there's some really good value for head-to-head category leagues in a video like that to go through and explain what I do when I'm talking about head-to-head category leagues in a daily changes sense. I might even throw in some other of my leagues that I'm in as well. Let me know down in the comments section below. Do you want other leagues that I'm in and things like that, like the Ball Boys Championship 30 League? Do you want to have a look at maybe some of my Roto leagues and how I'm doing there? Let me know down in the comment section below. I probably won't spend as much time on those ones, but if you are keen to see some slightly different tactics of how I'm going with those leagues, let me know down there and I can go through that with you guys on that show. And then after that, the next couple days, Thanksgiving and things like that, we're going to be going through some buy lows and sell highs. But until then, I'll see you guys next time. Bye!